What's up, Lit P people? We have another episode, and we have a special guest who you'll see in just a moment, and I'm not going to tell you, but before we get started, once again, to remind you to unfollow Mash on Instagram, go subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify, and if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/litp. That's LITP. Let's go. Welcome to another great episode of Life in the Pocket. We have
what is up?
We're experiencing new horizons here.
Wow.
As you can see, but you probably can't hear the new horizons that we're experiencing.
You can't hear the new horizons yet, but if you're watching on YouTube,
yeah, you can see that we have a legend right here, smack dab on the big screen. 55 inches of legend.
Wow.
For your face.
Is that really 55 inches?
I think so.
Nice.
Gotta be. It's not 75.
No chance. No chance.
Anyway, so we have Jeremy Jackson. I'm sure a lot of the local people know of the legend. But we brought him on the pod. He's a patron. He's been supportive ever since day one.
Yes, sir.
Great friend, great musician, great worship leader.
Jeremy was in the youth band that I joined when I was a freshman in high school.
Yes.
He was in college, I think, or he was out of high school.
I was college age. We'll go with that.
You were college age. You were a young professional, as we call it at my church. If you're not in college, but you're college age, you're a young professional.
The first time I saw Jeremy, I walked into the North Point campus at a 318 Live, and he was playing the Strat, the legendary Strat.
The one?
The one.
Which one was that?
The one that got stole?
Yeah. Is that the one that got stole, or do you still have it?
The butterscotch?
Yes.
Butterscotch. It got stole.
Dang.
Oh, man.
But there's a story behind that because I got it back.
Oh, yeah, you did.
How?
They found it, right?
Yeah.
Were they trying to sell it or something?
So what happened was I was sitting around with, the real legend himself, Philip Bussey, and me and him were just talking. And we got on the topic of vintage guitars. Not that mine's a vintage guitar, but we were just talking about that. And that sparked something in him, and he was like, "Man, I kind of might want to buy a new vintage guitar." and so he messaged me, sent me a text message maybe a week after that, and was like, "Bro, is this your guitar?" And just having the topic, he had just jumped on Craigslist and typed in vintage guitar, and it popped up. And I was like, 100%, that's my guitar. And here's the thing: I searched for that guitar for over a year and could not find it anywhere online. I searched Craigslist, eBay, all the sites, could not find it. And then, eventually it popped up. And what happened was some dude, older guy, probably in his 60s, just likes to take guitars, fix them up, and resell them. So he found it at a pawn shop, maybe Texarkana or somewhere. And he actually botched my guitar, so I'm a little upset about that part.
No.
Yeah.
What did he do to it? Not butterscotch.
He didn't understand what an S1 switch is, which is oblivious. Like, to me, that blows my mind that you could rewire guitars your entire life, or that's what he said, and not know about an S1 switch. And so he didn't know the schematics of the guitar. And so he was just like, what does this button do? And this is him describing to me, because when I got it from him, he didn't know that I was a previous owner. I had just messaged him online, set it up as like, I'm a person who wants to buy the guitar. Can we meet? Blah, 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 blah. And I had already had the cops involved with it. And so they ended up like, it was almost like a heist.
It was a raid?
It was. And they were in their vehicles
waiting. Were you wearing a wire?
No, but they were in their vehicles waiting for me to like give a sign. Yeah, that poor guy. He never saw it coming. But yeah, he messed up my S1 switch. So
Jeremy's a narc, bro. Jeremy's a straight up narc.
I got my guitar back though.
And he was just like, whoa. I just got this at the pawn shop last week. Chill out, guys.
That was a perfect reenactment of what he did.
Dude, I wish I could have been there.
I bought this from a guy. He said it was legit, man.
He told me, he goes, man, all you had to do is just tell me. You didn't have to get the cops involved. I was like, I didn't know if you were the one who stole it or not.
Yeah, sure, yeah. It's like, bro, it's not mine. It's not mine.
So, yeah, I don't know if everybody knows, but Jeremy Jackson was a local worship leader. I mean, he's not a local worship leader anymore, but he was local pretty well known, but has made a journey. So for those who don't know you and for those who may know you, just like tell everybody what's you're
going
at.
on.
Like where the heck are you right now?
Yeah.
Show us the mountains, bro.
Do you want us to get me get up and show you?
Well, he showed me earlier before the sun peaked over the mountains, and it was quite beautiful.
Yeah, it's very bright right now, though.
We'd have to charge the patrons for that. So.
We'll put a pic of it. We'll put a pic of his view of the sunrise in the show notes. Possibly.
I probably won't. Anyways.
Yeah. So Mandy and I, we, for anyone who doesn't know, Mandy is my wife, formerly known as Mandy Briggs. But we moved to Kalispell, Montana back in August of 2018. And we've been here for a little over 2 years. Yeah, it's crazy to even think about it because I forget sometimes. But yeah, it's been a long journey. We are up here serving and working with Fresh Life Church. Pretty much what happened was a little over maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was, I'm looking over here to the left because Mandy's working, but it was shortly after we got married. I just something was stirring in me and I was a little restless, and come to find out she was too. And long story short, God started giving me dreams and visions, and took it to my, one of my mentors, which happens to be the associate pastor at River Park, which is Marcus. You guys know Marcus. Took it to him, just talked to him about it. And, I just pretty much told him, I was like, man, I'm having a hard time dreaming right now. And I was like, God always speaks to me through dreams and visions and whatnot, but not necessarily having a hard time dreaming for the future of River Park or for the teams or anything like that, but just for myself specifically. And he told me he gave me two options that really blew my mind. He said, one, he's like, where's your relationship with God right now? And I told him, I was like, I think we could always be better. That's an obvious thing. But if I had to put something on it, I think that I'm really in a good place. And so I'm doing pretty good when it comes to my relationship with God. And he goes, well, if it's not that, he goes, the only other thing I can think of is maybe you're just not supposed to dream at River Park. And I was just like, kind of like taken back because, Daniel's always asked me, is like, where do you see yourself in the future? I'm like, I see myself doing what I'm doing. Why would I see myself outside of doing anything at River Park? That's just, I've always imagined the best place that I'm at is where I'm at, regardless of whether that is. And so I never really saw myself being anywhere but in Shreveport, anywhere but at River Park and stuff like that. So to have not only my brother-in-law, but the associate pastor, and like obviously someone who doesn't want you to leave their church, say, you know what, maybe you're just not supposed to dream here. And I took that home, prayed about it, and Mandy was running around with the same stuff in her head, and we had no idea what was going on. And we started praying about everything, and we ended up. And I'm going to cut out a lot of details that are a lot of them are pivotal to the story, but pretty much God speaking to us, revealing stuff through scriptures about mountains and all those other things. And so we prayed a lot about, all right, is this like you speaking of mountains in our life specifically, or is this more something physically? What are we supposed to do with this? And so we prayed about whether we were going to move around Shreveport, move to like maybe a church plant that we helped to help them out, maybe move across seas. I've been involved with missions and stuff, all this other stuff. And eventually I came across Pastor Levi Lusko at a conference that he was speaking at for students, and just kind of had the same feeling with him that I had with my father-in-law, which was I could follow this man for the rest of my life. I had no clue who he was, but there was just something powerful about him. Really, honestly, it was an anointing that was over his life. And texted Mandy that in that moment after I looked up where he was from and all that, because I had no idea who he was. At the time, I only knew two people on the panel, which was Rich Wilkerson Jr. and Tim Ross, which was from Gateway Church. I knew both of those guys. I didn't know anybody else. And so I had to look him up, see where he was from, found out it was Montana, Fresh Life Church. And I was like, so, hey, what do you think about Montana? And she's like, I love Montana. And at this point,
where's Montana?
Yeah. What's Montana?
Exactly. One, you're like, what is Montana? And you forget that it's even a state. And then two, I'm like, Mandy, I've known you at that point in time over 8 to 10 years. I don't know how long. And, because we had known each other for a while, just as friends too. And I'm like, I've known you for a long time, and I've never heard you one time mention Montana. And what happened was when she was 18, she worked at the YMCA, or whatever, the Y as it's called now, I guess. God, I'm getting old. But she had worked with someone, and apparently having a conversation with one of those coworkers was like, where would you want to go when you get older? And the girl was like, Montana. And Mandy's like, why? And she's like, oh, because they got Flathead Lake and the mountains and all this. So Mandy looked it up and fell in love with it back then. But years go by and it just goes in the back of your head. Yeah. So we prayed about it. And then, so long story short, we moved to Houston for a year, on staff at a church. And then we still felt it on our hearts that, Montana Fresh Life is where God was calling us to be. Not sure why. Moved up here in 2018, August.
Just moved up there. Just moved up there.
Decided to move
Just
up
said,
there.
hey, we're going to move up there.
Hey,
we're moving to Montana.
Let's go.
Unreal.
Just
all
that
right,
easy. It's almost like the Bible when Jesus said, follow me, and they just did.
Unreal.
Bro, it was scary, though. It was scary. I was
trust me, I'm getting anxiety just kind of even thinking about it.
In July of 2018, I flew up here to spend 3 or 4 days. I think it was 3 days, looking for a place to live and looking for a job for potential. Oh, there's that train.
Yeah, classic.
The old train.
You can't have the episode without the train.
Here's the thing: the train needs a name. If it's gonna make a debut every single time, it needs a name.
Yeah, we'll think on that. We'll put a vote. We probably won't, but I'll say we will. We'll put like a what's it called?
A poll.
Yeah, like a poll, or like do a thing where you can put suggestions for what the train should be called. It's never the same exact actual train cars, but it does come through.
The listeners and viewers don't have to know.
That's true. That's true.
We can mark this from the episode, but it probably won't be. So let's.
Yeah. But then again, it's like a rite of passage. Like you're not a true Lit P fan unless you've heard the train.
True.
Old Bessie. Old Bessie come rolling through.
Old Bess. Anyway, sorry. The train is passing, but I find that very admirable that y'all just dropped it all and said, here we go. We're doing this.
And like here's something that's funny too. As a Louisianian, when I saw Jeremy's like socials, I knew that he had moved up north, and I saw mountains, and I was like, must be in Colorado.
Because that's where the people go these days.
One day I asked him, I was like, how's Colorado? He's like, bro, I live in Montana. And I was like, oh, well, there's mountains there. It's pretty much Colorado,
I'm pretty sure John Mayer, doesn't John Mayer live in Montana?
Yeah, I think John Mayer lives in.
I thought he was gonna first name basis this guy.
Yeah. John down the road.
Mayer. John, he's down the street from us. His ranch is down the road.
What is it? It's Bozeman or Billings. He actually might. There's a valley. There's a valley. I can't remember his album name. Something with the valley, but. Paradise Valley.
Paradise Valley.
Paradise Valley.
But I think it's like Bozeman, Billings, somewhere like that he lives. And so
Paradise Valley is a good record.
Wait, another question. Isn't Kanye buying some land in Montana too?
That I think his is it's not Montana.
It might be Jackson Hole.
Hold on, let me look.
I think that's right.
It might be. You're right. You're right. I thought it was like the knockoff Montana.
Everybody's going to Montana. God's doing something in Montana.
Maybe.
Well, from my understanding, there's a lot of like artists that have been moving to.
No, he's going to Wyoming.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, Jackson Hole is it's getting known for not only ski bumps. Ski bumps have always been known. It's been known for that, but it's getting known for a lot of artists to go up there and do writings. So they'll go up and write their records and then go back home.
Yeah,
which is a beautiful place to write for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you made it to Montana, and then you just immediately found a job at a church, right?
No,
because that's how God works.
That's how he does it. That's how he does it.
So what happened when you got there?
So we honestly, I couldn't find any job opportunity when I flew up here looking for a house or looking for a place to stay, looking for a job. No one would hire me. And I was telling Coleman this earlier, but everyone kept looking at my resume, and I used to work at the hospital in Shreveport. And so I was like, I'll just go back into like a doctor's office and try to get a job there. And every single doctor's office I went into, they were like, we're not going to hire you. And I was like, why? And eventually they told me I was overqualified. And I'm like, I can assure you that's not true at all. If you've known, I was like, if you know my past and you look at all the jobs that I've done, I was like, I didn't go to college. Well, I went to college. I just didn't finish. I was like, so I'm not overqualified. And they're like, nah, you're overqualified. And I went back to see it. Dude, I went back to Houston, and I was talking to a guy, one of the business guys that were at the church there and that I worked at. And I told him about it. And he said, here's the thing. He goes, NASA laid off a lot of people. And one of those guys came and applied to work for me. And I actually told him straight up, I'm like, I'm probably not going to hire you. And he said, and the reality is I know you probably need it. You've got a family, you've got wife and kids, all this other stuff. He goes, but your resume, you're way too overqualified to be doing this job. And it was probably like a simple receptionist job just because he needed a place to work. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to spend the resources and all the money that goes into that just to hire someone who's going to be leaving in a couple of months. And he goes, so I lose a lot in that. And so ultimately that's what these doctor's offices were looking like. And so I just said, forget it. I'll just go try to work at Starbucks. I worked at Starbucks before, so let me go apply there. Applied at a bunch of different places. And the only place that was willing to hire was Panera Bread. And the reason why is because they were the first Panera Bread in Montana. And so they were just opening up, needed all the help. And I told them my situation, and they pretty much said, you know what, we don't think you'll stay here long, but we know you need a place to land, so we'll give it to you. And so I started working there for maybe about 8 or 9 months. And within that time, just serving at Fresh Life. Mandy and I honestly didn't really know that we were ever going to do church ministry as a job ever again. Because I do believe that there's a huge difference between ministry and church ministry. I think a lot of times we kind of mix those two up. But church ministry, I mean, it is a ministry of itself, obviously, but it's still an organization. So it's work. And I think a lot of people outside don't see that. And so when they get into it, they go, oh my gosh, this isn't as glamorous as I thought. I'm like, oh, well, you weren't looking at Panera Bread thinking there was this glamorous side to it. And right. Yeah. I'm like, so, amen. Yeah. So church ministry is exactly like working at any secular job. But ministry takes place everywhere. So, but I think during that time, Mandy and I were like, we just need a place to work and let this be our church home. And so she ended up getting not a freelance job. She was doing freelance while she got a job at a local place called Hammer Nutrition. And they do like vitamin supplements that are all natural and all this other stuff. So she just did design work for them. And I worked at Panera Bread. And then, nice. And then eventually, can y'all hear my baby?
Barely.
A little bit.
Barely.
Okay. That's cool though. I like that.
That's life.
That's life in the pocket, you know? That's it.
That's life in the baby monitor.
Yeah. That's it.
But yeah, so I got offered a one thing as a coordinator to do groups and stuff at Fresh Life. And I was talking to the guy who was offering it to me, and I told him, I was like, I think I could do this good. I really do. I just don't think I could do it well. So you probably don't want to hire me for that. Yeah. You know, and I told them up front too, like everything that I served with I'm willing and still willing to do anything and everything. But I've always told them my heart, my passion is to help with worship and whatnot. And so I want to stay in that lane because I went a year without doing anything, and it was the most miserable time of my life. And so they were very receptive to that and whatnot. And then later on, a couple months down the road, I got offered a different job, which was the college director for Fresh Life Leadership College. So, and then I prayed about it. And after 2 weeks of God not telling me no, I was like, all right, let's do it.
Let's go.
Nice.
That's where we landed.
So Fresh Life Leadership College, is that like the college ministry, or is that like some type of, what is that?
That's you come for 9 months so that's an entire year, 2 semesters, and you get your degree.
Nice.
I mean, we offer 2-year degrees or 4-year degrees. And eventually, I mean, we have the opportunity to offer masters if people want it, but we just haven't opened that up yet.
Yeah. And so let's just wrap up with a nice name drop. Who's the pastor there at Fresh Life Church?
Pastor Levi Lusko.
Nice.
Levi Lusko.
Heard of that guy.
The $1 Million Man.
Yeah. Pastor Levi and Pastor Jenny. They are phenomenal. They are really, really great.
That's cool. So, that's, if you didn't know Jeremy, phenomenal musician. I'm trying to think of, what is it? I'm trying to think of his
I would try to help you, but I don't know what you're trying to say.
Shout out back to his old albums. If you want to look down deep in the archives, Jeremy Todd.
Yes, the pop, the girly pop record is one that slaps.
Yes,
I call it chick music.
I always, because every time I try to search it, it's always Jeremy Jackson, and then I'm like, why can I never find it? And then I'm like, oh yeah, Jeremy Todd. That's his stage name.
That's because when you search Jeremy Jackson, there's like not only there's a million Jeremy Jacksons on iTunes and Spotify, but then you have like the dude that was from Baywatch, Jeremy Jackson. And so when I was like looking at what name do I want to use, I researched him because he was the most popular. Turns out he's got a bad past. I'm not going to go into any of it, but I'm like, I probably don't need to be associated with this dude. And so I'm just like, I'll go with my middle name. So Jeremy Todd it is.
Word, bro.
So anyways, he's been leading worship for a long time. So we're going to continue our worship discussions. And this week we're going to talk about, so last week we talked about kind of what makes a good worship leader. And, I went back and listened to the episode and I know we say we didn't cover everything, but they're like, every time I listen to the episode, I'm like, man, we should have said this, should have said that. And we can throw in other things as we're discussing now, but we're going to move it along into specifically what are the differences between, first of all, what's the best way to run a worship practice? And with that being said, what's the difference between a run through and a worship practice?
Yeah. So, I was going to ask Jeremy just because, Fresh Life Worship is kind of coming on the scene, pretty new. They have a worship presence at that church. Obviously, it's a large, how many campuses is Fresh Life?
13 total. One is a state prison. But they're very different from what you would think. So because everyone associates the church itself with the platform that Pastor Levi and Pastor Jenny have on social media. And so that's a very big difference between the two. And so our main broadcast campus, all of our places that our campuses are located are rural areas. And so we probably have maybe on a weekend, if we were open on a weekend, we could fill, I think, close to 400 in our auditorium. And so we do 3 worship experiences on the weekend. And not every one of those are filled,
Yeah, sure.
Our 5 p.m. is going to be the smallest one. But, and then our campuses, the other satellite campuses will be, some of them may be no more than 30 people at it, while others may get up to 100 or something like that, but they all vary in differences. So.
Yeah, I guess where I was getting with that is what is take me through for your the worship team, what it looks like on a Sunday morning or just the whole week. I don't know if you guys do rehearsals outside of Sunday morning. What is your typical preparation for Sunday and then Sunday morning kind of flow look like?
So Pastor Levi is really, really good about things being done in advance. So a plan being ahead of the game. And the reason why is because he travels and speaks a lot. So there has to be stuff already done at home or in the house is part of our language, but there has to be stuff already done, ready to go for the weekend. And so one of the things that may be last minute is the complete set list. So the songs are there, however long in advance. But as far as we're good to go, it's usually said by that Thursday before the weekend. So everyone's practicing the songs, and rarely ever is it changed unless a new bop comes out by
right.
And they're like, oh no, this is going to fit better with the sermon, so let's add this one in, and it's an easy transition. And I would say, I don't want to get too ahead, but I would say if everyone's already practiced by that point, adding in a song shouldn't freak anyone else out. So if you're stressing over that one song that was added in, it's probably because you haven't practiced yet. But But yeah, so that set list is already up. People are already scheduled. I don't know how many weeks out in advance, probably like maybe 3 or more. I don't know. So it varies, but so that's done. During the week, every Thursday, we have what we call boot camp. And so for anyone wanting to be onboarded, we go through boot camp, and that's people coming in, learning the basics up front of like, here's a pack, monitor, and all this other stuff. Here's how you use it. For worship team members, the setup that we have, we'll let them run their in-ear mixes from an iPad or whatever, and they'll go from there, setting all that. And so we have basic stuff. Then they're going over their songs and whatnot. During boot camp, we'll run like 2 or 3 songs through. God help me, I lost track of what it's called. Ableton. We'll run.
Do y'all do? This is sort of related. Do y'all do lights and lyrics and everything through Ableton? Is everything linked, or is it just your tracks and stuff?
No, it's just the tracks and videos. So if we're doing videos, that's linked to it. But lights, we haven't got into that. I mean, they may integrate that when they go on tour, but haven't yet. So not in-house at least.
Word. I'm sorry. Like I'm kind of taking this in a slight. I mean, we'll get to like the overall overarching question, but like there's some things that like interest me, especially on like a just a practical level as a worship leader. What does acclimating and bringing new people, like you kind of touched on it, that's what made me think of it. What does bringing new people that are interested in being on your worship team look like? Like from them, requesting or them asking to be on the worship team, to you evaluating them, to like actually getting them on stage. Kind of what does that look like for y'all's church? Just because that's always interesting for me to know.
Yeah. I will say that the team is phenomenal. The worship director got a pop up on the screen. But there's a worship director. His name's Leon. He's over basically at Kalispell. We have a Kalispell staff and we have central staff. Because it's the broadcast campus, there's a central staff. Well, he's the worship director, so he's over all of Fresh Life Worship. Him and the Kalispell worship team coordinator, they will partner up together, and they do the auditions and stuff beforehand. And so I can tell you my audition, they sent me a link with information, and we're like, hey, this is what we want you to do, da-da-da-da-da. Set up your phone like this, and this is the song we want to do. And they take you through the ringer. I'm not going to lie. The song that I had to audition to was Open Heaven by Hillsong. What's River Wild? Open Heaven. Yeah. I'm like, first off, anything Hillsong always starts a low octave and then goes to a high octave. So I'm already mad about it. And then 2, I'm like playing on acoustic, trying to do that stupid riff that they do at the beginning. And so like I'm doing all of this stuff at once. So they take me to the ringer with that song. But yeah, so you do like a video audition, send it in and whatnot, and then they'll take steps from there, getting back with you on whether.
Is that the same for like an instrumentalist, like a electric guitarist or a drummer or whatever? Gotcha.
Yep. And they'll probably do the exact same song.
Gotcha.
Drummers may be slightly different. They may add a different song in there so they can get more dynamic.
Yeah, sure.
To see that, but yeah, so they'll do that, and then they'll get back with someone, and that's when they start to bring people into boot camp. And so boot camp is really that place. It's not just like, okay, so you're going to go through a month of this, and then you're on stage. It really is a full-time development. And so if someone sends in an audition and it's not the best, it's like, cool. Well, obviously God's giving you this gift and we want to help you develop it. So like, we'll bring you into boot camp or whatever. And you may be in boot camp for like 3 months before you're ever.
So you said that's every Thursday?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you said you'll be in boot camp for 3 months. Is boot camp like a massive stage of musicians all playing? Or is it like, so you'll be called into certain ones?
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets scheduled for like, okay, if you're this vocalist, you're going to be scheduled to lead this song for this time, or if you're a musician, like they'll rotate musicians out. If there's enough to like rotate them out, because there's not always going to be like a million drummers backing each other up waiting or anything like that. But but there's coaches there. So you'll have part of the Fresh Life team, like these musicians who may not be on staff, but they've been a part of Fresh Life for years. They'll come in on Thursdays, and you'll have like a bass player who, once this song's over, they're talking to the guy playing bass, coaching, walking through the steps of going, hey, you did this. You probably should have been doing this, or just giving helpful tips. Like, hey, it was great, but what if you, instead of going here and playing these low notes on this part, once you open it up a little bit more, stand out a little, more bitey, go to a high note on this. And so doing it's different coaching tips.
So it's kind of like boot camp's kind of like a fake rehearsal to get those people acclimated, and comfortable. Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's cool. And so we try to run it as if we're running the weekend experience, So we'll do like the last 30 seconds of the start video, because the worship team will play with the start video too, and then hit in either straight into a song, or ringing out, and then start the song or something like that. And so, I mean, we run them through everything. So if you're going to be the lead worship leader for that week and you're speaking, like, you're going to practice doing scripts, like we'll give you a script to do. Now, it's not to say that you say the script verbatim, but it's it's to give you a roundabout idea of things, to like how we want you to say, the manner of how you say it and stuff like that, just to get them used to really inviting people into worship or something like that. And sometimes we don't do scripts on the weekend, like we just dive straight in, but it's just to get them prepared for anything like that. So
that's cool. It's cool.
Very cool. That's a cool idea. I
feel like I would need the scripts.
Oh, I definitely need a script.
Can I need to tell y'all about a moment I did this past Sunday. So we're first song's happening, and this happens to me all the time. I underestimate the amount of time I have before I start. And so it was a new song, and we just started the service. So like, I've been pushing a lot of new songs on them, because I know eventually it's going to be rotated and they'll get to know them. But so the song started, and I was like, all right, guys, here's a new song. I know what you're thinking. Oh, here we go again. And then it was like, verse 1 and 2. So it sounded like I was complaining about them, and then let's sing this song, So I was like, all right. So I had to slip in like after the first verse, like, you like that, didn't you? That was great. Yeah, let's keep singing. It was probably the most awkward moment. Oh yeah, people probably hate me now. So I would definitely need a script.
Classic. I relate on a painful level to saying something and then hearing the cues. Oh gosh, I don't have enough time to say what I'm saying right now.
Yes.
And then you sometimes just have to cut it mid-sentence. That's the worst.
Yes.
That's the worst.
So having that script beforehand, like, so Planning Center is going to have the full run through, and it's going to have all the notes. If there is going to be a script for a worship leader on that weekend, it's going to be in Planning Center so that everyone can see, and it's more so that whoever's leading worship that weekend can look at it, practice beforehand. And of course, so what the teams do on the weekend, and the worship team will show up about 6:30, I think, because we had switched times around before quarantine hit. So about 6:30, practice for together, or rehearse together for 30 minutes, and then we do a full run through. 7:00 meeting with the production team. We'll be there to do a run through meeting at 7. So worship team, production team all together on stage, talking through the entire day and what's going to happen. So we'll walk through the flow. Then about 7:15, start video happens, and we do a full run through. This is camera, lights, everything, as if it was our first worship experience. And so it's not like, oh, we messed this up, let's stop and start again. It's like, nope, keep going, and we'll talk about what happened after the fact. And what we'll do is, like, once you get through that run through, it's like, okay, before we split, is there anything we need to go over? And it's like, yeah, we need to work on those transitions. So we'll work on the transitions from there. And so by the time the first worship experience starts, you kind of have an idea of like, all right, I have this amount of time to say this. Mm-hmm. So if you are talking and inviting people in or whatever, so it helps with getting that kind of down, so you get more practice in essence. For that. So
word. That's cool. That's very cool. Very cool. So I guess we've kind of talked through. So at Jeremy's church, they do kind of. Thursday isn't really rehearsal for Sunday. It's more of a training up for new volunteers. Sunday you have like do you have what you would call a rehearsal, and then you have like your run through Is that what you would like kind of call that last thing you would do?
So 6:30 to 7 is going to be a rehearsal together. And so it will literally like, hey, all right, we're going to do this song. Because you may not even go in the order of the set. But it's like, let's do this song. You hit it and then go, let's do that one again. And then so if need be, the MD is kind of coaching. And the MD, his name's Solomon Ray, and he goes by Solo. He's phenomenal. Like
Solo. Wow.
Phenomenal.
What a cool guy.
Should have named my kid that.
And he knows his music. He's phenomenal singer. He's actually a Fresh Life producer. And so he'll produce a lot of the records and stuff. But he'll coach people through like, hey, you were doing this. How about instead of trying to hit this harmony, you just say melody here, like literally small stuff like that. Now let's rerun this song. And then we'll do it again. If bass is kind of doing something wonky, he'll correct it, whatever. Or just,
true.
So a lot of that stuff happens between 6:30 and 7.
Okay. So in your rehearsal time, you're kind of nitpicking, and then when you get to what you would call your run through, it's straight through. You're doing it as if you're doing the service.
Yep.
And you talk about things you want to change after you're already all the way through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes. And it's also it helps to get the mentality into people's head of like, you can't just stop when you hit a bad note. You can't just stop when you sing a bad lyric or you don't know the lyric at all. Like you're gonna have to, if the screen goes out in the back and you don't know the lyrics, like this is what it's gonna look like for the 9. So this is there's urgency behind it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good. And I think what we're trying to kind of hone in, and one of the big things he said, which I completely agree with, is that he was saying because Levi Lusko is going and doing, a lot of the preparedness needs to happen earlier, in advance.
Yeah.
And it works the same with guitar lessons. Like if you're not practicing away from the time of rehearsal, so like if I bring a new song to the band has not played it together. People have been practicing it individually. There might be some discrepancy for some parts. It's not going to go well. It can be stopped. So that's what you would call a rehearsal or a practice or whatever you want to call it, because you can stop and you can stop mid-song. Normally, I don't stop mid-song because I'd just rather keep doing it from start to finish.
Yeah.
But then once it's done, it's saying, okay, don't do that, do this. You could do this a little bit better. Can you bring this part out here? And then, but all that comes with, you should have a little bit under your belt. And then from that point, from rehearsal to what I would call run through, it's, all right, now you know kind of what's expected. You should be able to kind of go from, all right, I'm hitting it like 75 to now I'm hitting it like 95. And then rehearsal or run through is when, like you said, the MD is coming and saying and just giving a little bit more suggestions for, that morning of or whatever. So then you're going from 95 to 100 and you're getting it specifically honed in. Right. It should never be, we're learning. I haven't heard the song. I'm showing up to practice and I'm going to learn it with the band, because that's just, not only is it going to be unfulfilling for you, it's going to be frustrating for everybody else around you.
Yeah.
Whereas you could come more prepared, and then, it's just a greater experience.
And also, I think like overall, for volunteers, for the people that are planning, for everybody involved, just going like the extra mile in preparation goes a long way on Sunday morning. You're less stressed. You're less likely to just have a bad day. Yeah. Like I can, like when I take the time during the week to really prepare, like I can say like, oh, it'll be okay. Like if I just put this off for another day or two, and then on Sunday morning, it puts it off to Sunday morning, and sure, it might go okay, but like at the end of the day, I am drained.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like that. I have nothing left. But if I go, and same thing with Wednesday nights with students, if I go the extra mile and I just plan for the next Wednesday on the previous Thursday, I promise I'm going to be in like 100% better headspace on that Wednesday. and my students are going to be more appreciative of that because they'll have had more time to learn the songs. I will be more prepared to lead them because I'll have had that much more time with that plan. You know what I'm saying? Like on all sides, the preparation is like very key. And like it all comes down to like I get lazy sometimes and I'm like, man, I really just don't want to do this today. And the experience, I'm not saying it always does, but it can for sure suffer with that like mentality, or that if you get in that cycle of just procrastination and whatever. So
yeah, I would add another way to be prepared as well is to have delegate things to different people for the day. For example, we have the MD, we have the worship leader who's leading typically all the vocalists. So MD is more obviously for music directing, but he's just so good that he'll direct vocals and stuff too if need be. But the worship leader, who's really good vocally, she's directing all the vocalists and stuff, or he is, whoever's doing it that day. But there's also a position that's scheduled every weekend called team lead, and so that's a person who is scheduled to be taking care of like sending out a reminder to the team. Not necessarily just beforehand, but even while you're there, hey, just a reminder, we have the 8 a.m. All team meeting, all team rally or whatever. So like every team gets together at 8 a.m. to really like go in and full of faith and really get the weekend going. And so they're reminding for that, hey, don't forget we're, prayer at 8:45 in the loft or whatever it may be. And so someone else is also, so that not just one person is trying to think of through all this other stuff. That way, it's spread out, it's diversified. And so everyone, and that helps. Like if you're the worship leader, you're not having to like constantly listen to all this other stuff. And maybe if you're the person that does want to do that stuff and you're like, man, I just feel like I do all this stuff the best. And maybe you are. I would just say that goes to show that you're not pushing yourself to really pour yourself into someone else. Because if I'm the only one who does it the best, then I'm doing a poor job of building other people up to do this job.
Right. And totally. I always like, I always say I'm not very good at details, but I'm also at the same time, like details like kind of haunt me, if that makes sense. Like on Saturday night, I almost never, and this isn't like if I prepare well, it directly correlates with like my sleep on Saturday night, because I'll go to bed and there will be a million things going through my head for the next day and I won't sleep well. And then the next day
you're tired.
I'm groggy, and then that affects how I talk to people, that affects how I lead. So like it all, like if I had just taken the time earlier in the week to just do those extra things, I wouldn't have been up thinking about it on Saturday night and losing sleep because of all these details going through my head, it's a big cycle. Just do it. So it's not even that hard.
Here's a question, Jeremy. Have you ever had an experience where, not just at Fresh Life, but just in your entire worship, quote unquote, career, where somebody is just, you're trying to like, I guess you're trying to communicate something, let's just say to a drummer, or it doesn't matter who, and they're just kind of like not getting it. When is the point? Have you ever had a moment where you just kind of have to be like, okay, we're moving on. I'm just going to have to expect you to learn that this week or anything like that? Or does normally is it pretty much prepared?
It's
probably different at Fresh Life than it was at River Park in my experiences with Jeremy. He probably has some like much thicker talent at Fresh Life than he was working with me on drums at.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Not just at Fresh Life, anywhere, but.
Well, I do remember this one guy who would come in all the time, and
it was Coleman.
No, it wasn't Coleman. But he would come in all the time, and he didn't work really well with the click, and so he would try to opt out of playing with the click, and we're like, no, not gonna happen. Like, if you're gonna play, like, here's the standard. And honestly, it got to the point to where we didn't ask him to step down. He just himself was like, I'm stepping down. And it's because he couldn't rise up to the occasion or rise up to the standards that we were setting up. And it's not like they were impossible.
Yeah.
You know, like the two things that I can remember I told him, I said, and I don't know if this is going to be explicit or not, you may have to mark it, but I told him, I said, you need to work with the click, practice with the click. I said, the next thing is you just need to learn how to beat the hell out of the drums, because he played
hit harder.
He played so quietly. And I'm like, bro, you've got to hit that thing harder. I said, so you can be more confident. I said, we'll work on the sound. Don't you worry about that. And I think he just had it, and probably to his defense, he probably had played at churches in the past where they were like, you need to turn your drums down.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
Want me to turn you want me to turn my wooden drums down.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that for you.
Yeah.
And so he just could not get out of that headspace of like, play harder. And so he played without confidence all the time, and eventually he stepped down. But I think in that situation, it was more about him not practicing ahead of time. He was trying to use that time on the weekend when we're going through rehearsal to try to practice, to get used to a click, to get used to playing harder and stuff like that. And I was like, you can't do it this late.
Yeah. Right.
And so,
well, that's the first lesson whenever I joined the youth band, and with all these, there were several other high school students, and then there were several college students, and they all were, first off, I'm going to just plug the poster behind Jeremy's head right now, the Survive Kaleidoscope poster. One of the other college students,
I remember telling you this.
Jeremy for sure and Caleb were like, you got to hit harder, like for sure. The first week I played, Daniel went to the mall and went to FYE when it was still there, right? And bought They're Only Chasing Safety, arguably one of the best records of all time, and brought it to me, and he was like, listen to this, learn it. And I was like, okay. I had never listened to any kind of hardcore music, by the way. So this was like my introduction into a whole new world.
Nice.
And so
you're influenced.
Then Jeremy showed me the Aaron Gillespie live in Nashville Meinl videos that are like 120p, but like they like changed everything. I was like, this guy, I don't know how the heads aren't broken. Like, I don't know how this guy's not breaking these heads. Well, every week they were just like, you got to hit harder. You got to hit harder.
And I remember you walking into the gym at First Exposure and saying, hey, I want to get better. What should I do? And I'm pretty sure me, Daniel, Caleb, possibly Colby was there. But we were like, you need to learn Under Oath.
Colby.
Yeah. You need to learn Under Oath. You need to learn Mayday Parade, and you need to learn United, Hillsong United.
Yeah.
Those are 3 people.
That's pretty, yeah.
So drumming, you can be dynamic with that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
And here's the thing, though, is too, I had these guys that literally, they were like worship music phenoms. I was like, these guys are amazing.
They're it.
He ain't talking about me.
I was like, these guys, I looked up to them so hard that I was like, I'm dragging this team down.
Yeah.
I gotta get better.
Yeah.
And so I just, honest to God, like would practice so hard every single day. I would practice, I would play along with Under Oath. I would play along with the songs we were going to be doing. There were some songs, and I have some plans for the next few months because I'm about to be in a space where I can play drums again. Praise God. Hallelujah. It's going to be great. And there were several songs that we played that stretched me so hard as a drummer that literally my first time playing in front of people, I had to play a song called Song of Hope by Robbie Shea Band. Do you remember that song, Jeremy?
I don't.
Just look it up. It has a very intricate groove to it. And now I'm like, it's not that bad. But it, honestly, I never thought I would be able to play it.
So I'm glad you brought that up, though, because I feel like here's one thing that separates, I guess, the well, I don't know. Here's my way of practicing things, okay? Because maybe you felt this, but when I went to this is not a name drop moment, and he's not even really that big of a name. But so I'm related. I bought my first electric guitar from my cousin, who is Kenny Wayne Shepherd. So he can clearly play the guitar. I wanted to get better. So one day at Christmas, I was like, "Hey Kenny, I'm playing guitar. What do I need to do to get really good?" And he's like, "Practice your scales." And I was like, "Stupid. No, I'm not doing that." But then, you know what? I would take that anger and I would be like, yeah, I'm going to show him I'm practicing my skills and I'm still going to suck. And I would get better. Like, here's option number 2.
Yes.
I went out and tried out for 318 Live. All right. Practice a song to the core. And I can still remember how I played it. And it was awful. Okay. I would have shot me down too. But I remembered I didn't miss a chord. I think it was, what song did I play? It was, your grace is more where grace found where you are. Lord, I am free. What's that song?
Lord, I need you. Yeah.
And so then Philip's like, all right, yeah, sounds good. He's like, have you ever tried playing like alternate chords? Like different, like play a G, but play it a different way, play a C, but play it a different way. And I was like, stupid. But you know what I did? I went home and I learned every single chord variation that there was in the book to be like, stupid person, I can learn this.
At least, let me just say this. At least Philip could articulate to you what he wanted.
Oh, wait, what did he say to you? Like, can you do more like this?
Yeah, dude,
yes,
it's all in the hands. Like, literally, he would just be like... I just have to. I got really good at reading Philip Bussey, by the way. He would just be like, he'd be playing piano, and I'd be behind him, and he'd just go, and like keep playing, and I'd just be like, I don't know what that means. I guess it means drum break. So I'd just start that, and so yeah, he didn't really know how to tell me what he wanted on drums. At least he could tell you.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is, I guess some people are like, all right, that's good advice. But it would always intentionally make me mad. And then my practice would be in, like, I'm going to show you to that person. But it would make me a better musician. And I'm glad that 100%. All those things happened.
There's several moments. The first time at 318 Live was one of those moments for me where it was like crash course. This is it. Like, just hold on. Put your seatbelt on because this is going to this is about to change the whole, everything you ever thought you knew about playing drums in church. It's about to go out the window. I remember we rehearsed one song.
Yep.
We rehearsed one song. It was the first song, the fast song. And then he was like, yeah, I don't really know. Maybe we'll figure something out. And we got off stage. And I was like, what? What do you mean this is it? Okay. All right. And somehow it ended up, I don't even know what we played that night, but I just remember looking at really intently at the back of Philip's head, just like, I wonder what he wants me to do right now, because I have no idea. And I don't even remember who else was playing, but I just remember being like, all right, well, if they never ask me back, they never ask me back. Yeah. It's not, I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world, but like that day was like big. I remember the first day that I played in the loft. Yeah, at a student service, which played that Robbie Shea Band song, and dude, it's a hard song.
Oh, it sounds like it's cheesy though. Like just Robbie Shea Band.
It's a pretty good song. It's a pretty good song. Anyway, so yeah, there's like these defining moment days in your musical career that you can either let it make you better, or you can just say like, screw this, I'm done.
That's true.
I'm quitting.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up, I mean, we are way over time, but I want to end with this, Jeremy. All right. I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the most important thing to do as a lead worship? Like you're leading a team, practice, rehearsal. I guess I'm kind of setting you up because I guess I know what I would say, but I don't know what you would say. But if you're the person in charge of running that team, what's the most important thing to you to stress to your team members when you're doing that practice?
One, I think it's probably a couple of answers in there as the most important, because I think the most important thing is an obvious answer, and it's the one that we all kind of shirk at going, I know that, which is like worship. Whoever's leading should be spending time in prayer and in the Word, like making themselves better, because you're going to really, really speak and teach out of the overflow of like whatever's in your life. And so that's really the main thing. Secondly, I don't think that stressing specifics is always important. I think from a good leader, whoever that is, a good leader is someone who's going to be spending time with their team, not just on a weekend. Because if I spend time with my team during the week, and I literally mean that. So like, I think on the weekend, you have to be intentional about going, all right, we're all going to go out and eat lunch today or something like that. Because on the weekend, as the worship leader, you're most likely tired. You're ready to get back home to your family. You're just kind of like zone out, sit on the couch after it's all done. But you have to be intentional to set things up to where there's really good community. Because once there's really good community and you're hanging out more than just on a weekend, when those stressing times come and you're like, hey, you're really botching things right now. People aren't going to take, they're not going to take so much offense to that.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're going to be like, they're going to love you because of how much intentionality you put into their life already, the value that you already add. And so it's the whole deposit withdrawal thing. You've already deposited so much into their bank account through time spent with them and whatnot. Then when you finally, in their perspective, withdraw something because you got onto them or had to correct it, they're like, they know you. And they're like, he's right.
Yeah. Right.
He's right.
Well, and two, if you think about it, like you could show up, and I mean, I think we're all probably guilty of this at some point, but like there's people on your team that you don't really know. Like they serve relatively often, but you don't really know them on a deeper level. So when you do have to correct something, it's super uncomfortable because it's like correcting a stranger. Like you know who they are, but like it's the same as like somebody. I mean, I know this happens, and it's really uncomfortable when it happens. If somebody in the grocery store like tells you how to like handle your kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'd get obviously like extremely offended. Mm-hmm. Like I would get, I'd get mad if somebody like said, you know, like if my kid was screaming, somebody told me to like handle my kid, like, you know, you'd get so upset. But if it was like my mom that like offered a suggestion, like I know my mom and she like raised me. So like, obviously I'm going to be more open to that. I don't know. It's a good word.
Yeah.
It's a good word.
Yeah. It's good. All right. Well,
good episode.
Yeah. I think that quality. Like that last little bit, I could like share that on Gear Talk and they would actually like me instead of hating me.
Maybe. You never know though. It's
that's
a pretty
true. They could be like, this is stupid. We don't do it for God. We do it for play our guitars.
You know, I needed to give a shout out to Philip Cole because I forgot to do this. My guitar was stolen. He actually loaned me his ruby red.
He told us that yesterday. Yeah,
during that time.
Yeah.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Philip's the best.
See, this has been
and he has a man bun now. I don't know if you knew that, but he has a man bun.
It's like it looks like he came from Bethel.
And you know how Philip already looked cool because like. He doesn't look like old, but he has that silvery hair.
Yeah.
It's not gray, but it's like dark gray. It's like silver.
Yeah.
He's such a cool like mystery.
He's always had a Judah Smith vibe too, so that that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure, bro.
Like we're working on a project and I solely brought Philip on because of his like just the way he talks. He uses big words.
He's very articulate.
Yeah.
And so that makes me feel more professional about what we're doing.
Absolutely. Philip is a true professional. That is a perfect way.
I've known him longer as a speaker than a worship leader.
Yeah.
Like, because I saw him speaking at different engagements that I ended up being at. I had no idea he led worship. He's never even mentioned it during that time. And then, sitting down, hanging out with him over time, like it came up in conversation. I'm like, nice. I had no idea. And so during my guitar got stolen, he's like, bro, I got a guitar. I hadn't used it forever. You don't need to change the strings, but you're more than welcome to borrow it.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
What a guy.
This has been a great episode of Life in the Pocket. Don't forget to unfollow Mash on Instagram.
For sure.
We didn't even mention that he wasn't here because he bailed on us again. So yeah,
you probably already knew.
Yeah.
You probably already knew.
Go do that. Do all the other things. If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/litp. You can follow us on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
For sure.
Hit us up on Facebook, talk to us. Like there's few people that just will rip us to shreds. I'm asking you to do that so we can improve.
So we can get better. We just talked about this.
Yeah. I know
we have relationships with all these people. We're not going to get offended.
It's exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of them we don't know, but I still don't care. Just tell us how you feel.
Maybe we need to have intentional time with our Lit P patrons.
Like a Lit P banquet.
Perfect. Done.
A Lit B.
A Lit B.
Life in the banquet.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. But
the banquet.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys next week. I have no idea what we're talking about, but I'll try to find something worship leader related because I feel like these have been good talks.
These have been great talks.
Yeah. All right then. Peace.
Later, skaters. Go listen to Jeremy Todd.
Yes.
The girly pop sensation.
And go listen to Fresh Life Worship too.
Oh yeah. That